Discover the amazing solution revealed by an unexpected cleaning lady, where 11 lawyers failed in their quest for justice. Emily wiped the dust from her hands, staring at the mahogany conference table where the elite of the legal world casually discussed cases that would make or break lives. As she knelt to scrub the floor of the prestigious law firm, one thought nagged at her. These polished professionals would never understand the weight of a call that had dismantled her already fragile world, her estranged father's death. A man once celebrated, now reduced to whispers of a fraud scandal. Each shift felt like a marathon, balancing the relentless demands of her job and caring for her 2 young children. Each morning came with a heavy heart, knowing she was, in their eyes, little more than the woman who tidied up their mess. But the echoes of legal jargon seeped into her being: malpractice, liability, case precedent, words she absorbed like a sponge, longing for something more. Beneath her exhaustion simmered a tenacity she rarely dared to recognize. When the call came, its resonance was not just a death knell but a siren. The universe shifted tectonically, unleashing a torrent of unresolved feelings. Her father's legacy laid there, tarnished by false accusations. Would she have the chance to confront him, to mend a fracture that had festered for years? Guilt crept in, each thought punctuated by the specter of what they never shared, the missed opportunities for forgiveness and wisdom. Before long, she confronted a choice: stand idly aside or fight back. But who would listen to her? A cleaning lady with no legal acumen. She approached the firm of polished suits, the very ones who barred her father from justice, yet they waved aside her pleas and insignificant presence in their grand narratives. Next. Her heart echoed with their indifference. But indignation lit a fire within her. Silly as it felt, she had learned to listen, to collect details while dusting frames and arranging files. The shards of her father's case began to coalesce like a jigsaw puzzle. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The quiet of her home threatened to swallow her. Nights became a refuge as she pored over legal papers and documents swiped from the recycling bin of her own firm. The triumph of deciphering complex legal factions filled her with exhilaration but was soon weakened by haunting self-doubt. Would she be dismissed again? Deep-rooted fears surfaced. Questions spiraled in her mind. Did she have what it took? Was she, a cleaner, worthy enough to stand against giants? And the threat loomed, dark and terrible. What if she faltered, and her father's name sank deeper into the shadows? As she piled legal notes around her kitchen table in the dim light, a notion crystallized. This was her moment. With her children countless miles away in dreamland, she grasped the weighty thoughts manifesting into a case she would present to the lawyers who dismissed her. They would see her not just as a cleaner, but as the daughter fighting for her father's honor. Just then, a sudden knock echoed through the silent house, piercing her resolve. Heart racing, she approached the door, pulse quickening. A stern voice awaited her answer, a threshold teetering on the brink of transformation. Who is it? She croaked, bracing for a confrontation that could change everything. Would she finally claim the justice denied to her father, rise above her stigma, or would the giants of the legal world quash her presence once more? The looming uncertainty suffocated her aspirations like a noose, but she stood ready to confront the reckoning awaiting her just beyond the door. The door creaked open, and a familiar figure emerged from the shadows of the porchlight. Mr. Thompson, a junior associate from the law firm, the same one she had seen shuffle by with a stack of case files countless times. His presence pulled her from the suffocating weight of uncertainty, filling the air with the potent clash between their respective worlds. Emily, he said, a cautious look etched across his face, I hope I'm not disturbing you. For a moment, hesitation gripped her throat. How could this young associate, an obstacle and an enigma in her quest, possibly comprehend the magnitude of what she sought? No, it's fine, she replied, forcing a smile, though the urgency behind her words faltered. What brings you here? He shifted his weight awkwardly from one foot to the other. I overheard something today. About the case involving your father. There's talk that the evidence might not be as airtight as they claim. His words ignited dormant embers inside her. She motioned for him to step inside, and as he crossed the threshold, the air shifted once again, suffused with an unspoken possibility. Talk. What do you mean? She pressed, unable to conceal the tremor of hope in her voice. That he took a deep breath, collecting himself. There are whispers that some key documents were manipulated, but the partners want to bury it. They're afraid it could tarnish the firm's reputation alongside your father's. Emily's mind raced. This was the opportunity she had envisioned, a crack in the walls built around the case against her father. But standing on the precipice of action, doubt threatened to resurface. Why are you telling me this? Because I respect you. You've shown more grit in your position than many attorneys I've seen, he replied, sincerity flickering in his eyes. Perhaps you could help us. The enormity of his proposal washed over her like a tidal wave. Could a cleaning lady navigate these treacherous waters, grasp the law's complexities, and claw her father's legacy back from the abyss? I have no formal training. She began, but he interrupted. Sometimes, Emily, the most valuable insights come from fresh eyes. You understand this case in a way none of us do. You have all this nuance in the histories and interactions at the firm. You see details we overlook. His plea reverberated through her, dismissing her previous doubts like fallen leaves before an impending storm. Could this be the moment she needed to realize her own latent potential? Okay, she said, voice firmer than she felt, but I need access to the files, the ones they're trying to hide. Thompson shook his head, the company's protocol's an invisible barrier. That's a tough ask. But I can get you some. I just need reassurance you won't alert anyone. The very idea of skirting rules set her heart racing. You're risking your job, she cautioned, grappling with the ethical rope tightening around two disparate worlds where she was little more than a custodian, and where he was a rising star. What's at stake is bigger than all of us, he replied, determination gleaming in his eyes. Your father took the fall unfairly, and we both know it. Do you want this chance or not? He was right. This was a perfect storm, the sweep of turbulent possibilities swirling around her. A decision loomed: either retreat into the life she knew, or leap into the unknown, fighting to reclaim her father's dignity. As adrenaline coursed through her veins, she realized this was no longer just about her father, it was about her, a transformation from invisible to indispensable. I'll do it, she declared, each word solidifying her resolve. But just as she nodded toward the potential path ahead, a ringing phone interrupted the moment. Your phone, Thompson pointed out, perplexed. Emily's pulse quickened. It was the number of one of the firm's top partners, a name etched into her memory. Heart pounding, she answered, bracing herself for whatever challenge awaited her on the other line. Emily, the partner's voice came through, gravely serious. We need to talk about your father. What revelation was about to unfold? As her world tilted beneath her feet, Emily understood that this turning point might unravel everything she believed both about her father and herself. Emily steadied herself, the phone pressed tightly to her ear as a rush of uncertainty clawed at her insides. Emily, came the partner's voice, calm yet laced with an urgency that set her on edge. There's been new information about your father's case that requires immediate attention. Can you come to the firm now? Now? She echoed, barely registering the weight of the word. She glanced at Thompson, who stood silently watchful, his expression a mixture of support and apprehension. Yes, this is urgent. Please, I can't explain over the phone, he pressed, his tone brokering no dissent. With a sense of foreboding settling deep within her, she agreed, snatching a coat from the back of a chair as she settled into this new reality that her life could shift drastically with the next piece of information. The drive to the law firm felt surreal, the city lights whirling past like reflections of her tumultuous thoughts. Each red light seemed to extend her palpable anxiety. What could possibly derive such urgency from a firm that had stifled any chance of her father's exoneration? Once inside the firm, she navigated through familiar hallways that seemed foreign now, the sterile marble floors echoing her unease. Each step reverberated with the knowledge that she was crossing into an arena where she was seldom allowed, a place once reserved for polished attorneys in suits and ties. The conference room was already bustling with the firm's top brass. She hesitated at the door, gathering her thoughts, then stepped inside as if she were donning a suit of armor. "Emily," the partner spoke, motioning her to a seat, "thank you for coming. We have a situation that is preventing us from moving forward with the case. The evidence isn't as straightforward as we thought." Fear entwined with exhilaration. She had followed her intuition before, felt the shift of hidden potential in response to Thompson's faith in her, but here was a new landscape laden with risk layered across every employee face. "One of the research associates discovered discrepancies in the files," he continued, flipping through pages before him. Several key documents appear to have modifications made after the initial submissions. When he presented this to management, they dismissed him. "I suspect they may be hiding something." Emily's heart raced. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place. Was this what Thompson had hinted at? She forced her voice to remain steady. "Is it possible those modifications could implicate someone within the firm?" "Yes. That's why we need to act cautiously. Whatever comes to light could implicate the firm, a scandal that would run deeper than your father's case," he said, his brow furrowing. The taut atmosphere of the room reflected the tension within her. She cleared her throat. "What do you need me to do?" "We need someone on the inside to go through the files discreetly. We can't let anyone know we're onto this. Your position as a custodian may allow you to access areas we can't." The challenge sparked something powerful within her. Would that access also allow her to demonstrate the skills she possessed? Could she blend the world she had lived in and bridge the gap? "I'm in," she declared, her resolve hardening. The partner nodded solemnly, recognizing the weight of what she had just agreed to. He shared details about where to start and what to look for, but it became increasingly evident that this endeavor would take more than sheer will. It would require every ounce of cunning she could muster. As they discussed her approach, a thought crossed her mind. Could she actually outwit the very system that had silently condemned her father? Suddenly, doubt seeped in. But she halted its advance. This was no longer just about her father, this was about her proving her worth, her existence against every patronizing glance. When she finally walked out of the office, adrenaline pulsed through her veins, igniting an unfamiliar sense of purpose. The stakes were enormous, both for her father's legacy and her own burgeoning identity. As she prepared to sift through files and information, something nagged at the back of her mind. Was someone watching her every move? The possibility of a hidden adversary lurking among colleagues rendered her obedience doubly significant. Here began a dual journey, not only to rescue her father's honor but to redefine her identity as she stepped into a role few would ever expect from a former cleaning lady. The echoes of doubt battled her growing determination. It was time to uncover whatever was hidden, and to confront the ghosts of her past that would shape her future. She was teetering on the edge, ready to plunge into shadows, poised for what lay ahead, yet fiercely aware of the lurking dangers. The moment had come to confront not only the unknown challenges ahead but also herself. And though she sensed the impending clash, she resolved to push forward. Her voice would not be silenced. Time for action had arrived. What hidden truths would she uncover, and how far was she willing to go to reclaim her father's honor? The fluorescent lights flickered overhead as Emily adjusted her uniform, the fabric suddenly feeling like a second skin. She was about to step into the bowels of the firm, a territory usually reserved for those in polished shoes, not for someone who had kept their shoes scuffed and soles worn from cleaning floors. A shiver of irony coursed through her. Cleaning had always been a way of keeping her life neat, but now she was about to dig through the mess of a massive legal scandal. She took a deep breath and opened the door to the records room. The shelves were lined with boxes, old files filled with dust and secrets. Her heart raced. This could either be her greatest opportunity or her greatest mistake. She needed to establish a plan. She was no longer just a custodian, she was a player in a game infused with deception. Her first instinct was to start at the edge of the room, carefully wedging herself between stacks of documents that had been mismanaged or overlooked. She began to sort through the piles, scanning titles and dates, looking for the ones her partner had mentioned. Names like Weston and Haley, they burned in her mind like the neon lights of the city outside. An hour into her search, she found a folder that felt heavier than the others, thick manila, the contents pulling ever so slightly from the sides. She couldn't ignore the curiosity gnawing at her. She pulled it out, flipping it open to find a series of correspondence dated just before the modifications had seemingly taken place. The exchange was troubling expressions of urgency and terse warnings. It was too calculated, too slick, a lawyer's version of a witch hunt. As the minutes ticked away, she immersed herself in the world of legal jargon, discussing modification timelines, the weight of witnesses, and buried evidence. Her heart pounded with each page she turned. This was real, this was powerful. What she read painted a disturbing picture, fragments aligning to create a sinister narrative of obfuscation and forced compliance, but so much knowledge also unleashed a torrent of conflicting thoughts within her. What if her actions drew unwanted attention? Her role as a custodian lent her some cover, but could she rely on that? The weight of what she was doing pressed down on her shoulders like an anchor, threatening to pull her under. She questioned whether she had the tenacity or intellect to outmaneuver those with years of experience. All her life, she had lived under the thumb of a society that underestimated her, viewing her through a lens of stereotypes and class differences. Yet, instinct told her that she was tapping into a profound strength, a gritty resilience she had honed through years of adversity. The possible connections between the documents didn't just speak of her father's case, they illuminated the murky depths of corporate greed and betrayal. A fire ignited within her, a resolve to expose this hidden corruption, not just for her father, but for every voice that had ever been silenced. Suddenly, she froze, hearing footsteps creeping closer. Her heart raced as she shoved the folder back on the shelf and subtly positioned herself behind a larger box. It could have been a simple maintenance worker or a partner on a late-night file inspection, but her gut told her it might be someone who wouldn't think twice before uncovering her secret. Holding her breath, she braced herself, the tension crisp and electric. When the footsteps receded, she let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. This was no longer just about personal redemption or her father's innocence, it was about survival. As she resumed her search, a thought flickered in her mind. Could she marry the courageous spark ignited within her heart with the knowledge she was gaining? She needed to formulate a strategy, to weave her way through danger with a combination of stealth and cunning. The line between who she was and who she would become blurred. But in embracing that transformation, Emily knew the battle ahead wouldn't simply be with the files, it would be against a system designed to crush those like her. Just as she felt her focus sharpening, she uncovered another document that jolted her. An address, a location tied to a series of late-night meetings. An address that hinted at deeper betrayals. Would this be the key to unraveling the web of deceit surrounding her father's case? As she slipped the folder into her coat pocket, a chilling realization washed over her. She was standing at the threshold of a discovery that could change everything, for herself and for her father. And one question loomed larger than all the rest: how far was she now willing to go to expose the truth lurking in the shadows? Emily stared at the address scrawled across the document, her mind racing. The sharp, sterile scent of the room faded away, replaced by the growling apprehension forming in her gut as possibilities danced through her thoughts. This location could offer crucial evidence, or it could be a dead end that led her into a trap. Her instinct screamed both warnings and encouragement. The desire to act surged within her, but hesitation tugged at her. She palmed the document in her pocket, feeling the weight of it against her skin. Each heartbeat echoed the dilemma nested in her mind. For years she had kept her head down, accepted her place as invisible, but now she wasn't merely seeking the truth for herself. She was entangled in a much larger narrative, one that threatened to expose rampant corruption at the cost of her own safety. So, what was she going to do? Should she take the risk and pursue this lead alone, or lean on her ally, Jack? The mere thought of involving him prompted a wave of doubt. What if her decisions compromised his career, or worse, his safety? Yet, without his support, the weight of this investigation felt insurmountable. A glimmer of doubt nagged at her. Was she capable of navigating this maze alone? With a deep breath, she turned her thoughts inward. Her position had often limited her, but now, standing on the precipice of a revelation, she recognized the hidden capabilities she never thought possible. Years spent in the shadows had sharpened her intuition, honed her observational skills. While her uniform might scream menial labor to the casual observer, she had learned the intricacies of human behavior, the subtle way people's faces betrayed their thoughts. Determination settled in. She wouldn't spend any more time hesitating. The address wasn't just lines on paper, it was a pathway. If she could gather the courage to confront the situation, she might finally unearth the truth that could not only redeem her father but also rewrite her identity. She was more than a cleaning lady, she was a seeker of justice. Emily tiptoed through the records room, anxiety transforming into a steely resolve. Every creak of the floorboards sharpened her senses, each soft rustle seemed like a call to action. She exited into the hallway, where the familiar institutional wallpaper felt strangely ominous. With the address firmly locked in her mind, Emily set off to locate a computer terminal she knew was tucked away in the back of the building. As she made her way, images of her father flickered in her mind, his face marred by worries that had translated into years of struggle. She was not just fighting for her identity, this was for him. Each step felt like a leap into the unknown, so many risks circled her mind. Would it expose her? Would she be unmasked? Or, even better, would it lead her closer to the truth? Reaching the terminal, Emily's fingers flew across the keyboard. She unearthed maps, documents, details about the address and its previous owners. The screen pulsed like a heartbeat, revealing the layers of secrecy and suggesting that this facility had connections to shady dealings within the firm. It was becoming clearer this was no coincidence. Just as her plan began to solidify in her mind, the tension crackled through the air like static. She felt it before she heard it, footsteps approaching. Her heart sank, the risk was real. Would she have time to hide, or would she need to confront whoever was coming? She stood frozen for a moment, weighing her next move. Should she bolt, or stay to confront the chance that this could be an ally? With every instinct crying out, a solid resolve forged within her, the time had come to face the unknown, not just as a custodian, but as a challenger against the very corruption that threatened her family. The situation was escalating. Whether she stepped forward into the shadows or disappeared back into her role as just a cleaner, her life was about to change forever. As the door swung open, she felt a rush of adrenaline. Would she embrace what lay ahead, or retreat back into the comfort of her old identity? Emily's breath hitched as the door creaked open. A figure slipped inside the dimly lit room, tossing a glance over their shoulder, an instinctive reflex to check for observers. For a heartbeat, the world outside ceased to exist, and all her training urged her to bolt, to vanish into the fabric of the building. But something deeper held her rooted in place. The figure turned. Her heart raced. It was Jack. The familiar contours of his face were shadowed but unmistakable. Relief crashed over her like a wave, mingling with a surge of irritation for the risk he'd taken. Why was he here? Emily, we need to talk, he said, his voice low but urgent. She nodded, feeling the turmoil of conflicting emotions. Relief tinged with frustration. She hadn't intended to draw him into this web of danger. What are you doing here? You shouldn't. Never mind that, he interrupted, urgency forcing his words out rapidly. I sensed something was off. And when I noticed you were missing, I had to follow. Emily chafed at the idea that her absence could lead to his concern. You shouldn't have come. This is dangerous. I know that. But you're searching for something, aren't you? We both are. His words were a lifeline, a reminder that she wasn't truly alone. Yet there was a layer of risk that crinkled the air around them. It wasn't just about them anymore, it was about the hunt for something larger than themselves. She forced steady breath into her lungs. I think this place is connected to everything: corruption and my father. Jack's brow knitted in concentration. What do you have? She relayed her findings about the address, the documents she had unearthed, how they point toward hidden dealings. Each detail hung in the air like an arrow, guiding them both toward an unseen target. You're onto something, Jack acknowledged, his eyes sparking with excitement. But you're also in over your head. The word struck a nerve, but she swallowed her indignation. Could he see how she had grown since she'd embarked on this journey? The remnants of self-doubt clashed with the fierce impulse she had cultivated. I've navigated the shadows for years, Jack. I know how to observe, to listen. But this isn't just my fight anymore. It's all of ours. I can't sit back and watch while this corruption continues. She watched the gears turn in Jack's mind. Was he thinking she needed to retreat? That her role was subordinate? I'm not asking you to pull away, he said, drawing closer. I'm asking you to maximize that insight of yours. Let us work together. Working together rekindled a sliver of her vulnerability. Trust was difficult, especially in moments laced with chaos. But Jack represented the bridge between her cautious approach and a more assertive method. Okay, then, Emily said, steeling herself. We devise a plan. But no distractions. And no unnecessary risks. Before Jack could respond, the door rattled against its hinges, a deafening sound that shattered the fragile calm they had managed to create. The tension twisted sharply. They weren't alone. An instinctive reaction propelled Emily to the nearest shadowed corner, pulling Jack along. Together, they pressed against the damp wall, the faint rustle of approaching footsteps igniting her senses. This was not just another obstacle, it was a confrontation looming, threatening to take them both down paths from which they might not escape. Stay quiet, she whispered, adrenaline coursing through her veins as the footsteps drew closer. Would they have to fight their way out of the darkness, or could they outsmart whoever was approaching? The choice was slipping away, and the moment of truth was upon them. As she watched the door slowly open again, a deep-seated resolve ignited within her. This time she wasn't just a bystander, she was a player in her own narrative, ready to confront whatever reality awaited them on the other side. But before she could forge her next move, the figure stepped into the room, a familiar face that shook her confidence and brought unresolved emotions flooding to the surface. Would she confront the truth here, or would hidden fears pull her back into a legacy she wished to leave behind? Emily's breath quickened as she recognized the figure that stepped into the cramped room. Her blood turned to ice for a split second. The last time she had seen Sophie, the cleaning lady with an uncanny knack for being in the right place at the right time, was during a moment of severe crisis in her own life, a crisis now tied to the very corruption she was pursuing. What are you doing here? Emily asked, her tone brimming with both apprehension and disbelief. Sophie's eyes darted to Jack, assessing him quickly, and then returned to Emily. I heard you were looking for something. I thought you might need assistance. Emily repressed a sigh. This is dangerous, Sophie. You shouldn't be here. But I need to be, she asserted, crossing her arms defiantly. You think you're the only one who can connect the dots, Emily? I know things that could help. Jack broke the moment of tension. What are you talking about? Sophie took a step closer, her voice lowering to a conspiratorial whisper. There's more to this place than what you've seen on the surface. I've seen things, documents, conversations, stuff that points to a much larger scheme than either of you realize. Emily's heart raced, a mix of irritation and curiosity bubbling inside her. And you didn't think to tell me before? I had to be sure, Sophie replied. Her conviction was palpable. I wanted to see if you'd fully grasp what's at stake. I didn't want to interfere unless I knew you were ready. Emily felt a small flicker of respect. Perhaps Sophie saw something in her, a readiness she wasn't certain she felt. But that readiness was critical now more than ever. So, what's the play? She asked, an urgency woven into her voice. There's a safe room in this building, Sophie said. I've seen the guards come and go. If we can get there without raising any alarms, there's a database that could reveal the connections to your father's dealings and much more. Safe room? Jack interjected. Do you know how to get there? Yes, Sophie answered calmly, her face resolute. I can lead you. The shifting goals among the trio sharpened the tension. Emily's instincts warred within her trust this unlikely ally or proceed cautiously as she depracticed. But a nagging sense of urgency wrapped around her decision-making. The pursuit of truth often demanded collaboration. Fine, Emily decided, her voice steady. You lead. But we need to move quickly, and no distractions. We can't afford to be caught off guard again. Sophie nodded, her determination matching Emily's. Stay close then. Follow my lead. As they slipped through the shadows, Emily sharpened her focus on the task at hand. This felt different. The familiar self-doubt that once clouded her decisions dissipated, chiseled away by new resolve. They crept down the corridor, Jack keeping pace next to her, his presence steadying her resolve. She could feel Sophie's quiet confidence in front of them, guiding them toward knowledge and potential revelation. But still, an underlying fear lurked. What if this led to a dead end? What if the connection to her father was more dangerous than she anticipated? Somewhere deep within her, she knew that information was a double-edged sword. It could empower her, or it could plunge her deeper into the abyss. At last, they stopped in front of a heavy steel door, its surface cold and foreboding. Sophie pulled out a keycard, her hands tremoring ever so slightly. For a moment, the ache of uncertainty crept back in. What lay behind this door could unravel everything she thought she knew. With a decisive swipe, the light above turned green, a soft click marking the door's release. Emily exchanged a glance with Jack, who gave her a reassuring nod. This was her moment. Taking a deep breath, she stepped into the darkness beyond the door. Whatever awaited them inside would test her integrity, her courage, and her understanding of her own legacy. But, just as they entered, the lights flickered on, illuminating rows of screens embedded into the walls, displaying live feeds and documents. What she saw chilled her to the bone. Connections she hadn't imagined, individuals she had trusted flashing before her eyes. And that was when the ominous truth hit her. Her father was only the tip of a much darker iceberg. The fight she engaged in was far more perilous than she could ever have fathomed. Her pulse escalated. This was more than a pursuit of justice, this was survival. And above it all loomed one lingering question: were they alone in seeking this information, or was someone watching them, just waiting for the right moment to strike? Emily stood transfixed, her heart hammering against her ribcage as the glow of the monitors painted a monstrous picture of deceit and manipulation. Names and faces she once considered allies flickered across the screens, while links between them and her father's questionable practices coalesced into an undeniable web of corruption. The revelation overwhelmed her. This was much larger than anything she'd anticipated. "Look closer," Sophie urged, her voice dragging Emily out of her spiraling thoughts. "Each of these connections matters. They lead to people who have power and motivation to keep their secrets buried." Emily blinked, forcing herself to step forward and study the information more intently. For every face illuminated on the screens, there was a hidden agenda, each carefully orchestrated maneuver crafted to keep the truth to a minimum. "This is a blueprint for a conspiracy," she whispered, the weight of realization crashing down upon her. "Then we need to act," Jack said, pacing slightly. "This isn't just about the truth for you anymore. It's about exposing this entire operation." Sophie responded with quiet authority. "Exposing them is exactly what they want. We cannot underestimate their reach or their resources. If they suspect we are onto them, we're finished." A steely determination infused her voice, and Emily respected her strength in that moment. "I won't let them silence me," Emily shot back, conviction igniting within her. She had spent her life under the shadow of her father's decisions, but now she was ready to wield her own power. "We need to collect evidence, enough to protect ourselves and expose them." Sophie's expression softened slightly, admiration simmering beneath her cautious demeanor. "It's risky. We'll have to be meticulous. Once we start pulling these threads, there's no going back." Emily nodded, her mind racing. Each decision ahead would outline her trajectory. Whatever hesitations she harbored had to dissolve. This was her moment to reclaim her agency. She stared at the digital evidence of betrayal and then, recognizing a pattern, pointed to a name on the screen. "What about him?" "He coordinated the deals with my father." Jack leaned closer, squinting at the screen. "If we can find anything that links him directly to this," his voice trailed off, the vast implications weighing heavily on them all. "Then we expose everything," Emily affirmed, a fierce resolve solidifying in her stance. She surprised herself, the fear that once curtailed her now transformed into a sharp focus, invigorating her drive. As she began to formulate a plan, a sudden, shadowy movement caught her eye beyond the screen's light. The hairs on the back of her neck stood on end. Someone was indeed watching them. "Guys," she whispered urgently, her tone shifting to a low hiss. "We have to move. Now." The trio pivoted, scanning the room, the flickering monitors reflecting the mounting tension. Emily felt every instinct flare, her mind buzzed with the potential consequences of their discovery. This was no longer merely a quest for justice, it was a matter of life and death. Where to? Jack asked, his urgency palpable. Back the way we came, Sophie suggested, her eyes flitting towards the door. We retrace our steps to avoid detection. No. We can't leave without more evidence. If we do, we're handing them our departure, Emily insisted, her voice steady despite her racing heart. She knelt closer to the screens, her mind rapidly processing possible entry points and defensive measures. We need to get immediate access to the database. It has information we can use to protect ourselves. We can't backtrack now. Sophie hesitated, understanding the gravity of Emily's words. You need to be careful. This could turn deadly. Perhaps, but so is living in the dark, Emily shot back, determination flooding her veins. It's time to expose the truth, once and for all. As she executed her plan, the tension in the room thickened, wrapping them in a cocoon of suppressed anxiety and urgent action. With rapid keystrokes, Emily entered commands to extract key files. Each second felt fraught with implications. Just as the last file loaded, the distinct echo of footsteps outside the door sent a jolt of apprehension through her. They were running out of time. Are you ready for this? Jack asked, a mixture of admiration and fear threading through his voice. Emily met his eyes, a newfound strength thrumming within her. I've never been more ready. And as the door creaked ominously, she realized that every decision made so far had led them to this pivotal moment, the culmination of her growth. The fight for survival and truth reached a crucial intersection, and with it, the looming question remained: would they expose the dark underbelly of power, or would they become a casualty to its wrath? Emily's breath quickened, a tangible tension clawing at her throat as she glanced back at the loading screen. Time felt distorted, the seconds stretching out ominously as she absorbed the implications of their next move. With each increasing heartbeat, her thoughts raced through the potential outcomes. Failure could mean losing everything she had worked up to this moment. The door's creak morphed into a thunderous sound in the silence. She could feel the tremor of anxiety ripple through her companions, but there was no time for doubt. This was about reclaiming her narrative, and she was the only one who could drive it. Just a few more seconds, she murmured, her fingers dancing across the keyboard frantically. Each click resonated with urgency, a barrage of digital strikes against the enormous wall of corruption threatening to bury her life. As the last data box blinked green, a surge of triumph ignited within her. She had extracted sensitive information enough to illuminate the shadows that enshrouded her father's dealings. But just as her sense of victory began to swell, the footsteps abruptly stopped outside their door, leaving an oppressive stillness in its wake. Emily, Jack breathed, his eyes widening in near panic. She quickly exited the program, securing the files into a hidden folder. If we can wait for them to pass, she started, but Sophie shook her head. We can't stay here any longer. We need a plan for our exit. Emily weighed the options in her mind. Retreat now meant fleeing into an unknown, while staying could give them both information and a chance to confront their adversaries. The tension was suffocating, each breath felt like a gamble. We should create a distraction, Emily finally suggested, abandoning the safe thought of dodging. What do you propose? Jack asked, his curiosity piqued, yet laced with skepticism. Emily's mind ignited with possibilities. Sophie, you and Jack can create noise on the other end of the room, turn off the power, throw something. It'll draw their attention away while I slip out through the back exit. If I can get to the office upstairs, we might be able to find more evidence, she said, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. I don't like splitting up, Jack countered, glancing toward the closed door as if he could sense their pursuers on the other side. This is our best shot, Jack. Emily's voice reached a higher pitch, a blend of urgency and conviction. We've come this far, and I won't let it all go to waste now. With a reluctant nod, Sophie and Jack exchanged glances, a silent conversation passing between them. Time was slipping away, and the urgency pressed heavily upon them. Fine, let us do it, Jack said finally. On three, Emily instructed, her pulse racing as she took a deep breath. The plan solidified in her mind. This was her moment of control. 1, 2, 3. Emily exclaimed, as Jack and Sophie sprang into action. She dashed toward the back, her heart thundering in her chest. She navigated through the shadows, the dim light of the monitors fading behind her as she slipped past machinery and clutter. Inside the back office, the shelves lined with files suddenly felt like a treasure trove. Each box could hold the key to unraveling the conspiracy that had ensnared her life. As she bent down to rummage, she felt a wave of determination wash over her, a growing awareness that she stood on the threshold of reshaping her future. She was no longer just the victim of her father's legacy, she was an agent of change. The remnants of fear mingled with an adrenaline-fueled clarity. Suddenly, the unmistakable sound of the door crashing open echoed through the hallway. No more time to linger. She quickly scanned the titles on the boxes, trying to find anything that would lend weight to their cause. Her fingers froze as they landed on a file marked Project Blue Horizon. The name sparked a flicker of recognition, a project rumored to be linked to her father. What if the evidence within could not only expose deception but also unravel years of conspiracies connected to the organization? A movement from behind caused Emily to jump, her heart racing as she turned around. Who had followed her? The air shifted dramatically, she was no longer sure who was hunting whom. Emily? A disembodied voice emerged from the shadows, threatening to pull her deeper into the unraveling mystery. The moment of truth was dawning, and she felt the pressure of her decisions bearing down like an anvil. Would she confront the danger head-on, or retreat into the shadow of her father's legacy? As her hands tightened around the file, she braced herself for what was to come. The confrontation was unavoidable, and in that crucial instant, the depths of her resolve would be tested once more. Emily's heart pounded furiously against her ribcage, as the voice reverberated from the shadows. With the file clutched to her chest, a mixture of recognition and trepidation washed over her. The figure stepped into the faint light, one she had not expected to see again. Mr. Thompson. Emily, he said, his voice low but unmistakably anxious, we need to talk. In that moment, something inside her shifted. Here was the man whose indifference had initially stifled her cries for justice, but it was also the man who had offered her a glimpse into a fight worth embarking on. The full weight of her circumstances crystallized within her. This was more than about her father, it was about reclaiming her story. What are you doing here? She challenged, defiance blurring with a curious glimmer of hope. Are you trying to sabotage everything I've worked for? No. No, I swear, he responded quickly, raising his hands in a placating gesture. I found out about the meetings connecting your father to malpractice allegations. I felt a responsibility to help you. As the admission echoed inside her, Emily realized the layers of deception extended beyond her father's case. Perhaps here was a potential ally, someone battling his own conscience against the tide of corruption. Why should I trust you? She countered, glancing over her shoulder, vigilance sharp within her, his expression genuine. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Because I've seen the papers. I've overheard the discussions. There are whispers of dismissal leaking through the firm. Your father wasn't alone in this, others are implicated. If we expose it all, it could set things right. Her uncertainty loosening as she absorbed the magnitude of his revelation, another thought flickered through her. This was an unexpected opportunity to unify her forces instead of retreating into doubt. She needed not only clarity for her father's legacy but also for her own reclaiming of her identity in a world that had always viewed her through a lens of scorn. Taking a deep breath, she steadied her horse of resolve. All right, she said, the firmness of her voice a contract in itself. Help me get to the truth, and I'll help you. But this time, it's on my terms. The ensuing silence filled with a weight of understanding. This was no longer about her father only, nor about the law firm's tarnished reputation. It was about setting herself free from the shadows that had bound her for too long. They agreed on a plan, each outlining specific implements on how to navigate through the firm's database and escape unnoticed. For every bit of information they gathered on Project Blue Horizon, they would merge their findings, a flurry of covert activity blending their disparate worlds into an unbreakable force. The file felt secure in her hands, an emblem of her transformed identity. As they began sifting through highlighted connections and names, the initial ember of purpose ignited into a blazing fire of determination. Hours blazed past, criminal schemes coming to light, intersections between the powerful and the desperate weaving a fabric of deceit that hinted at grounds of institutional collapse. Each new document revealed triumphs over past fears. She began to recognize her own capabilities not merely as a caretaker of dust but as an architect of justice. The dizzying shift catalyzed an undeniable swell of pride. Her grit and resolve not only led her forward but illuminated her path. When Emily and Thompson slipped away from the firm that night, no longer were shadows their refuge. The weight on her shoulders transformed into wings. The bond made between them was not only based on necessity. It was a partnership formed out of mutual recognition of their identities beyond stigma, victims rising into champions. Months later, a press conference blazed before her eyes, the first public acknowledgement of the fallout from Project Blue Horizon. Emily appeared on stage, now recognized not just as the cleaning lady but as a pivotal figure in exposing corporate criminality, all while honoring her father's name where it belonged, in the light of truth. Her story had evolved from whispers of dishonor to a resounding declaration of resilience, echoing through chambers of justice she never thought possible. It's not just about the truth we seek, it's about the legacies we choose to reclaim, she spoke firmly, filled with gratitude and fierce pride. In that moment, she illustrated the profound growth that stemmed from facing inconceivable challenges. A woman once marginalized now stood with solid confidence, having conquered barriers and proven her competence in a realm dominated by polished shoes and power suits. With this accomplishment, she affirmed to herself and the world that she was no longer a mere custodian of a legacy but a proud daughter who honored her father's name with dignity, not as an echo of a hidden past but as a beacon of truth. This was her moment, a triumphant closure to a tumultuous journey, denoting the transformation from an overlooked cleaner to an empowered figure, forging her path in a previously unattainable world. Now it's your turn. Don't wait even one more second. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm's hunger for great content. Comment your reactions and theories about this incredible ending. It fuels our fire. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this spellbinding conclusion. You need to show your support.